Welcome to the Happy Market Research Podcast, your favorite place for strategies, stories, and insights from the world of market research. Brought to you by your host, Dan Fleetwood.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Happy Market Research Podcast. I am here with Eugenia Archetti from Owens Minor. She is a Senior Manager of Customer and Market Insights. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Dan.
That's great. Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. For those who might not know who you are, can you give a quick intro and background just to get people familiar with yourself?
Of course. As you said, my name is Eugenia Archetti. I'm a proud mom of 3 and a Gigi of 2, and this is the people I work for. And not always planned a career in research, like many of the researchers that you know. But looking back, I really appreciated what research could do for campaigns and products, and I was hooked and never looked back. That's the whole spark of research took me into a path of 2 masters, master's in science and market research, an MBA, and a PhD in anthropology, for which I yet have to complete. But I studied the intersection of culture, identity, and the relationships that people make with brands and products.
Interesting. Yeah, it sounds like you went down this path, but you went all in too with these 2 degrees and really embracing yourself in it. What are you currently focused on now that's of interest to you and maybe others that are listening?
Right now, what I'm mostly focused on is new product development and innovation. As you mentioned, I work for Owens Minor. I work for the product vertical of the company. Owens Minor is the 3rd largest medical distributor in the country. But we used to be Kimberly-Clark Health, which then was Halyard, and Halyard has a global presence. Mainly all the PPE that goes into the hospital, from gloves to gowns to helmets, masks, etc. Most of my energy right now is focused on new product development and innovation, closely working with R&D.
Interesting. So for new product development, what sort of methodologies or research methods are you using to kind of help you out here in terms of developing these new products, testing them, and so forth? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think many of the times what we do is we have a framework that we work with, which it's pretty much an evolution of the IDEO framework, which is viability, feasibility, and desirability. Oftentimes, we do not work alone. We work alongside design companies that help us through the innovation process, right? How do we marry the insights, or how do we marry that opportunity or the knowledge gaps, right, that the market has with the materials gap and the technology gaps to get ahead of the market. So, right now we're trying to ramp up our own a close-ended AI, creating our own agents, right?
Oh, wow.
Pretty much working in parallel paths, because you can't, even if you have a great opportunity and there is a good, how do you say it? There is a good, an unmet need on a particular category of product. We do it. Can we partner with somebody to do it? And what is the bottom line, right? So you have to constantly be looking at the market from those 3 perspectives, and especially in an industry that's highly regulated.
Yeah. I was curious around, AI, and we'll get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI here in a minute, but I'm curious of how much AI has disrupted, your work that you do at Owens Minor. Has it disrupted it quite a bit, or would you say it's just starting the disruption? Where's that at in that process, do you think?
Well, we've been through so many things. We were recently acquired by a private equity. So as a company, we unfortunately do not have an AI strategy. So it's not like we can play. Sometimes I hear, oh, this is my company's AI policy. This is all we're allowed to do. We're not allowed to do much of anything right now. But the one thing is we're working closely with IT to be able to create those agents. So mainly what we've been using AI, until this point, is to aggregate secondary data, aggregate market data, just capture the trends. So oftentimes I feel for companies like the advisory board that we just
Mhm.
let go of, or a Mintel or a Kantar, because there's so much information out there. So what we do is we do what's called AI sprints, or I call it pre-search, right?
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
everything that we know so far within the category or the product line that we're looking at. This is what's out there, and either marrying the two or running different scenarios, right? If I
Mhm.
were to, I mean, we are getting a lot done with Claude right now with the
Yep.
agents. And so you just pretty much right now what we're doing, we're feeding the research brief into
Mhm.
the tool.
Right.
And the tool then, it's like, create for me all these blue oceans, create these opportunities. They can even give you margin before you
Mhm.
start, going, or
Mhm.
suggestions, right? The other day, we were trying to innovate within the food category, right? And one of our main competitors switched from nitrile, which is one of the cheapest materials,
Mm.
to even one cheaper, that's
Oh,
vinyl,
wow.
right? Vinyl, I mean, it's a pain on the neck. Your hands are gonna sweat. It's difficult to doff and don, but it's cheap.
Mhm.
And if you're
Mhm.
making a sandwich at Subway, you don't need state of the art. Right?
It's true, yeah.
You just
Yeah.
need something that gets you in and out. So when you
Yeah.
feed it the model, and that's the beauty of Claude, because it's almost like a system of systems. The system learns, and they say, okay, this is what they're trying to do, and then it continues to grow and get you more information.
Yeah.
So I think if it's not it's disrupting for good right now. It's very limited. So I sometimes I wish I have envy of the good kind. Some of my
Yeah.
colleagues have access to all these tools and technology, and then I don't, but at least I have a little window with
Yeah. Yeah.
with IT now that I can do. Um, but the other thing I think we started playing with quite a bit is synthetic data and
Yeah.
creating personas, right?
How's
From
that been for you?
It's going really well, especially on we're trying to advance into other markets. So using the same PPE products that you'll see in a hospital or
Mhm.
an ASC, we will use them, for example, at the home improvement channel, right? For
Yep.
painters. Painters need coveralls, they need gloves, they need masks. So everything that has to do with consumer, there's so much out there.
Mhm.
The anatomy of a painter,
Right,
kind
right.
of coveralls they need. Right now, we are even developing highly sophisticated coveralls, right? Because we have to address certain characteristics. If we solve for
Mhm.
heat in any kind of PPE, we'll be golden, because
Right.
it's very, very hot. It's very uncomfortable, especially, it's 100 degrees today here in Birmingham. So
Mhm. Yeah.
it gets hot in the summer. So,
Yeah.
um, so even trying to do product ideation and creation, this is the insight. This is what we're trying to solve for.
Mhm.
What will the model recommend we do? And on some of our iterations, they can even give you prototypes. So it's
Yeah, that's interesting, yeah.
it's incredible.
How when you're using synthetic data, have you found it to be the same as, like, I'll call it real data for lack of a better term here, or is it
No,
comparable? Like, how are you judging that right now? I'm curious.
I think it's right now we run it. So maybe I should have said the jury's still out. We're
Yeah.
running it into three different segments. Two of those segments are within the consumer, which is more relatable, right?
Mhm.
To you, because it's the PPE that you may find in the drugstore,
Right.
whether for first aid or taking care of a loved one or your pet, or to do your hair, your hair for beauty, etc.
Mhm.
So
Right.
in that sense, it's pretty it's pretty convincing, because they just created, for example, in the home improvement channel,
Mhm.
they identify three kinds of segments. So you have the cowboy, so the guy or the girl that will go in and just cowboy their way through. They may not need so much PPE,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
they may just fix, if the gloves are broken, they fix the gloves. They don't pay so much attention to the protection per se, only when they need it. If they're wearing harsh chemicals, they're exposed to harsh chemicals, that kind of thing. But then you have a huge segment that's the preventer, right? I mean, I know these chemicals can be hard for me, or I know if I have longer exposure to these cleaning agents may do something,
Yeah.
to me, right? So
Right.
everything that they're looking for within those need states. And then you have the professional, right? I mean, I am, you are what you eat, you are how you look,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
And it's a whole component that how I present myself is the quality of my work,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that one was pretty close to some preliminary personas work that we did.
Hmm.
On the healthcare, it was also very, very close because, how to use even the channel, understanding the dynamics of the channel, because with online, it may be a lot cheaper to buy it on Amazon or
Right. Right.
Walgreens.com, right? But why will you go to the pharmacy for certain products?
Mm-hmm.
And understanding the function of the channel was extremely interesting. I mean, it's again, it's common sense when you look back, but nobody
Yep.
thought it until you saw it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yep.
preventing the target moment. So you go in for carrots and you spend $350. Where the money go, you don't know, right?
Yep.
But
Exactly.
you go for masks, you go in for gloves and masks, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's what you do. You get it and you're out.
You just described all my Costco trips right there. So
You would, and
yeah.
everybody else's. So I think
Yeah.
it's
Right. Right.
helping on that sense. It's helping, kind of open up the field a little more.
Yep.
It's challenging our thinking. The other thing too, I have a great team, and we all know that AI has almost like a positive bias, very positive slant. It's not going to tell you the
Mm-hmm.
bad news. So we started training our models to say, point me to the blind spots, right?
That's
Or
good.
give me the
Yep.
pessimistic, perspective of this market, or you know, show me the worst case scenario if we are to
Yep.
invest in this technology or we're going in this direction. So I think in those sense, it just because it's so agile, it makes
Yeah.
you think of other things.
Yep.
But back to your question, I think the data, it's so far has been pretty aligned. We're really excited. We're about to start a pilot with Verve, which is
Mm-hmm.
a UK company that has invested a great deal of money on validating their data and their personas.
Mm-hmm.
And they do something similar as what we're trying to do in home, which is meshing the existing research and data that you have with, the World Wide Web, so whatever is out there.
Right.
But they have a special model that's been calibrated and they can show you data. So it's upwards of 90%
Wow.
correlation. So we were trying to do a pilot to see is the is the data that we get within our category as good as their example, or it may work for financial products or CPG, but maybe not for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so there is a lot out there. I think it's as more and more adoption comes into the forefront, some of these companies, I don't know the value of some of these companies. I also feel for some of my design companies that we've
Mm-hmm.
used for innovation. We used to partner for so long, just because it's so much easier now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes
You can
sense.
upload. You don't even need to do probes, anymore. That's the
Yep.
other thing. Like before, you
Yeah.
need to know the probes. You need to do it. Now you can talk like I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dan, tell me such and such a thing. Sure.
I know
You want to
yeah.
see this angle too, right? Have you thought of that? I mean, it's like, no, I
Yeah.
haven't.
Yeah. I should have, but I didn't. Yeah. No, I mean, it sounds like you're using it, in a good way where as the perfect assistant as opposed to like being adversarial towards it. I think that's good. I like that. In terms of like, the good, the bad, and the ugly of AI and research, I think we talked a lot about the good, unless there's other things you want to add, feel free. But I'm curious about, the bad in that statement. Like, what do you think is maybe overhyped or misunderstood that needs to be talked about a little bit more?
Let's see. There is a huge misunderstanding with the people
Mm,
that have a positive bias, right? With AI. At least I know I kind of stood corrected, right? You think it's going to make you stronger, faster, more agile, but faster is the key word, right?
hmm
Couple clicks, voila, you have your answer.
Yeah, yeah.
No. If you're using it that way and you're like, I got it,
Yeah, you
you're
got
doing
it,
it
yeah.
wrong.
Right.
You're doing it wrong. So I think it takes a couple of times, right? You have to warm really your motors and you have to really warm your muscles to understand that if you're using AI, it's going to be more work. It's
Mhm.
different kind of work
Yeah.
in the big scheme of things. But if you are thinking that's a couple of clicks and you're done, you are really missing a lot on the table. So I think
Mhm.
that's probably what's being super hyped right now. Oh, it's so easy. Everybody can do it. It's
Right, yeah.
talking to your best friend. No, no, you're doing it wrong. And sometimes, sometimes I do spend a lot of times refining the question, refining the outcome, asking different angles. So I think it's an assistant. I think you probably qualify it the best. Um,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think that's good what you mentioned in terms of it's not gonna be like a, wave your magic wand and all of a sudden it's there. You have to spend some time and really dig into it, and then I think initially when people start using AI to begin with, it makes them probably more inefficient than efficient until the efficiency comes in where you develop a cadence and how to utilize it. What do you think in terms of like the risks, concerns that we should be paying attention to? Anything come to mind there?
Yes, actually, a lot comes to mind. I think I'm doing better managing it, but there was a recent MIT research that coined the term the AI brain.
Mm-hmm.
And I read also something similar on Brené Brown's latest book, which is on strong ground.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, when you outsource your thinking to AI, you experience the lowest of your possible brain engagement, right? Your brain is not in the function right now. It's not thinking with you to the question you're asking AI to solve. So then the brain really has a very hard time understanding the outcome or processing the outcome to remember or even quote what AI said.
Mm.
So that the whole process pretty much leads you to have an effect that's similar to brain rot, right?
Mm.
When you are
Mm-hmm.
kind of dazed and confused and you know because you have the awareness that you're processing all this data, but you
Yeah.
feel unable to quote or understand all the process it took to get you to the end result.
Mm.
So it leads you to what technically is called on a um,
Mm-hmm.
cognitive debt or
Mm-hmm.
debit,
Yeah.
which actually in turn weakens the way that you can think critically and it weakens your memory because
Mm.
AI is doing all the reps for you. Your
Right. Right.
brain's completely idle.
Wow, that's interesting. So it's like instead of your brain doing the heavy lifting, AI is doing it for you, and you're offloading your brain power to AI. So then you just become the brain, yeah, the brain
You
rot. I think that's
become
a
numb. You become absolutely numb. And then, I remember like sometimes I go into this AI sprints and I maybe 2, 3 hours. And then I'm like, where am I?
yeah. I know. I
I
feel
feel like
you. Yep.
it's all over again. It's like, I've been, it's a train wreck, right? For my brain, but
Hmm.
my brain is not doing any of the reps. AI is doing them, but I still feel these fog. I still feel, like I don't fully understand everything that was processed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's also. I know when I've used AI, or when I use AI, yeah, I feel like I always ask myself the question, like, is this making me better? Is it making me smarter? And I don't know that it's making me smarter, although I feel like I know more. But to your point, it's like I've just offloaded a lot of my critical thinking to AI, and it feels like it frees up part of my brain, but maybe that's just the overall feeling that it's the brain rot. Really, I don't know. It's
I
interesting.
think it's happening. I think the way that we have to do, because there is a lot. I mean, this is a phenomenon that's being studied because it's
Hmm.
happening when kids are, researching topics for their projects or,
Yeah.
preparing, a group project or whatever. Everybody outsources thinking and you don't even know what you're talking about at the end. So I think
Yeah.
it's time to kind of keep that human on the loop and it's you and AI working together
Yeah.
And maybe the way that I'm kind of trying to prevent my own brain rot, right? Instead of putting all the sprints one after the other, is doing one sprint at a time and
Yeah, that's
taking
good.
the time and seeing, okay, will I approach this question differently, or do I need to craft my probe better? Am I happy with the outcome? And then taking those almost like breaks, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I'm going not at the same speed, obviously, because AI can process data much faster, but
Right.
I feel like I'm a part of it.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's the right way to go about it. I think in terms of taking the breaks and using your brain, I think in the end that'll make you more efficient anyway. If you just use AI all the time, you're going to be sort of this malaise. I feel like so that's
Well,
interesting.
and I think to your point, right? It's like I say, I'm making you smarter. And I think when I reframed how I used it, it is
Hmm.
making me smarter. And it
Right.
is making me faster too. Not as
Yeah.
fast, right? Because I
Yeah.
would never be as fast. But something happens, at least it's happening with me in terms of your agility, right?
Yeah.
And
That's good.
the adversity of, I was working with an R&D team, and we were doing 10-year portfolio analysis, and people were drowning in data and they were so afraid. It's like, it's okay, we're going to go by pieces like Jack the Reaper, right? It's like, let's
Yeah.
do it let's do it step by step. And once you do it that way, you do get, the speed that you need. And then you get to, you are part of the sausage making instead of
Hmm.
eating sausage at the end.
Right. Yeah. I like it. It makes sense.
Sort
Yeah.
of. Sort of.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to keep the human in the loop and thinking along with it too, and take
Yeah.
breaks, right? I think that's important.
Yeah, and I think definitely keeping the human in the loop is of the utmost importance. And I say this as a big advocate and proponent of AI. Like I'm just kind of as you're talking about this, I'm thinking about my own kind of usage in real time and how I feel when I'm using it. And I mean, it's very powerful, obviously, and the things you can do, and just even the advancements in, excuse me, in technology over the past even 3 months have been wild from our standpoint. And sitting here with just the advancements in our technology, it's amazing. It's amazing. So I say this as the biggest advocate, but I do wonder sometimes of like, man, am I really getting smarter? Have I just offloaded my thinking and just the appearance of being smarter? I don't know. It's interesting, but
Oh, the stories that you tell yourself, right?
yeah.
Because I was like, oh no, brain rot, and when I first read it or heard about the study, I was like, that's right. That's why I feel so like out of the
Hmm.
loop and disconnected, right? Instead
Yeah.
of, it's like almost when you've been doom scrolling, right? It's
Yep.
like,
Oh yeah.
you're
That's
glazed.
the worst. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's the same thing. I think it's, I think I was going to give kudos to Laura Wright from the MRX Pros because,
Hmm.
we were reading a book, The Power of Fun, right? And
Yep.
how important it is, almost vital. And how do we empower ourselves to control the use of our devices, the
Yep.
technology that we use day in and day out, and kind of be human,
Yep.
connect,
Yep.
have conversations like we're having right now, and just be more mindful. I think it starts with awareness and then intentionality.
Yeah. I think that's good. That's good. Kind of shifting a little bit towards industry trends and insights outside of AI, or maybe AI is the biggest shift we've seen in market research, obviously. But are there other things that you think people should be looking at in terms of shifts that you've seen in the industry recently, or is anything else come to mind besides the AI?
I mean, I always preface myself that I have a positive bias, but
Yep.
I am underwhelmed really by breakthroughs or things have changed. I haven't seen a lot of innovation in general
Hmm.
out there, other than some AI. I don't even know how even the big companies are using AI right now.
Hmm.
Um, I've done an incredible amount of work with smaller, more boutique like, agencies. But oftentimes when we have a large study, we have to triple beat it. And I will like, oh, let me just try some of the big ones and see if anything has changed, if there's any innovation. And just
Right.
aside, I think the other day I was taking a survey and they had you had an open-ended box. So I put my answers, and then the box read my answers and probed me on what
Mm-hmm.
I was saying. Where are you
Yeah.
coming from when you say X, Y, and Z?
Yeah.
That's one of the innovations, but I haven't seen anything radically different. Different. It's sometimes it almost pains me when I work with the classical research company and you have 100-page or an 80-page
Mm-hmm.
report, and I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, nobody needs these. It's like, this is what we get a bad rep, right? This is
Yeah.
what's
Exactly. Yep.
going
Yep.
on. It's like, it's and so I don't know. I think I haven't seen much of it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing, yes, maybe the little bleeps, ups and downs of synthetic data, some new companies coming into the fold,
Right.
but I don't know. I haven't seen much in market research that I can say, wow, we're really harnessing these and we're really taking it. If anything, I think I've seen some resistance, right?
Yep. Yep.
We work really closely with GLG. GLG has fully automated interviewers, and we
Mm-hmm.
did a pilot, and they did the pilot, and then we hired a moderator. Both did their thing, and I was like, it was pretty close, and people are getting comfortable, right, talking
Mm-hmm.
to the machine right now.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
probing, and right now you can have an entire conversation with your Alexa at home if you feel like
Yeah,
it.
for sure. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
So, but I haven't seen much of anything. I don't know if it's because of the area that I'm focusing right now. That's more product innovation and development.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen a lot.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that you haven't seen a lot probably says a lot too, right? I mean, and that if it's not being out there or not being marketed well, I mean, I think that's a lot of things that are being done, but even to to your point, if it doesn't appear, then what does it really matter? So it's interesting that's the sort of the takeaway you have there. In terms of like, do you see any trends that are over or underestimated right now? I'm curious if anything else comes to mind there.
I do think that, and depending on what you're using, I think what's being underestimated is the use of personas.
Okay.
And we were able to build a couple of agents, and then we can, using the same agent, say, hey, what do you think about this product?
Yep. Yep.
And then getting feedback from the product. So I think that's been underestimated. Nothing will be talking to real humans or the real target, but you can get a great degree of just at least some of the kinks and some of the early prototyping tested and sanitized, for lack of a better word.
Hmm.
um, and I think that's one of the things I believe I was a little like, how do you say, ambivalent about using it, and then
Yeah.
the more we tried it, the better they're getting, and I'm sure they'll continue to get better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's one thing. The rate of advancement at which they'll continue to get better is going to be, yeah, I think unprecedented, just based on the things that I've seen and what we've been doing here as well. So interesting times. I'm curious around, we mentioned, keeping a human in the loop and so forth. What are some things that you think researchers often get wrong, and how can they improve them?
What, using AI
Just
or
in general. I mean, it could be by using AI, or it could be
in general?
things that in general. Yeah.
I think researchers, and I probably include myself on it. They had to beat it out of me in certain ways, right? I started my career in advertising, and my working with creative folks, account planning folks, and like, just plain language, 8th grade level, 3rd grade
Hmm.
level, right? Just make it
Right.
simple, make it easy to understand. I think one thing that researchers sometimes are a little timid or shy is asking for that seat at the table and representing that consumer in the room. Like I always say, if I had a one-liner, I'll be the consumer whisperer, right? This is my role. I am
Hmm.
bringing the knowledge of the consumer into the fold, which many times, especially in a product company, and especially a company led by engineers, right? They're going to let the materials lead the discussion. They're going to let the
Right.
product to lead the discussion, but not how we're going to benefit. So I think it's we're always, and I'm generalizing, but we're super technical. We kind of hide behind statistical tables, sample sizes, right? Not everything needs the full force. Sometimes if you need to kill the ant, you're not going to use a cannonball, right? We have to be able to flex. And I think a lot of my colleagues throughout my career, 20 plus years into the field, are very strict. Like this has to be done this way. So I think we need to do better at being a better partner. We need to be better at collaborating. I think that's pretty much what gave birth to the UX and the rise of UX. And it's like, okay, well, that's the other extreme, right? Who do you talk to? My neighbor or my grandpa? Who's the target? A soccer mom. So doesn't make any sense, right? But it's because they're speaking their language. So speaking their language, asking for that seat and listening more. And don't get technical, try to just, what is the objective? What are you trying to do, and adjusting the approach to it? I think that's something that I wish we had evolved, but I still go into conference or, in industries, get together. People are just so, it's almost like a security blanket or a crutch, right? Desperate times call for desperate matters. I mean, I just find out they're laying off a bunch of people, my prior employer with Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? All over the place. And I think it's because of that, because we are subject matter experts, but we are separated from the rest.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the way that you put that. I'm curious around other advice that you would give someone looking to improve their research today, or just in general, like what would make researchers better? I know you said you need to be a little more forthcoming and so forth, but I'm curious around that. Like, what advice would you give some researchers?
I think one of the best things that, I always say, I'm in the business of, edu research entertainment. Some of the advice I will give is like, teach people. I always surprise, even, I work with Harvard grads, MIT grads, Slippery Rock grads, right? The University of Texas grads, people from all over walks of life. But I do think is when people enter their careers into corporate, they're not fully versed into what the full power of research and what research can do. And if we go with that very technical, very rigid perspective, people are afraid because they don't know. So I think there is a huge opportunity for the industry in general to educate and to teach and to train. And also in the big scheme of things, to think about how taxed people are for attention. I mean, I end up doing these almost big reveal parties every time we have a study where, I even got my vendors to create holograms of personas or, just replicate the flow of an OR procedure. Just so people can really get into the stuff, because you may have 2 or 3 people that are really interested and have the time and bandwidth,
Yeah.
the mental capacity, but some other people, as much as they want to, they're just so, there's a myriad of competing priorities, and research is difficult. Research makes you think, and thinking is the final frontier, right? Nobody wants to be an automatic pilot. Nobody wants to think like.
Yeah, no, I think teaching and making sure that, people are educated, I think is definitely important. I'm curious around, and this will be, maybe as we start to wrap up here, speaking of teaching, any books or podcasts, resources that have influenced your thinking that you'd like to recommend to the audience here?
Sure. Any book by Brené Brown, she's one of my favorite Texans ever. On Slow Round is one of the latest books. I think everybody's been through a great degree of change, and their resilience muscles are totally wasted. So it's, how do you break through? How do you continue to reinvent yourself and move forward? I really appreciate that book. It has a companion with another author that I love, Adam Grant.
Oh, he's good.
Podcast is a short 6-episode series. It's very good. I also love Mark Mason. I'm not a Buddhist myself, but I'm a yoga practitioner, and how he translated some of that Eastern philosophy into the subtle act of not giving an FUC. That's a very good book. And then Hope is FUCD too, right? And it's just making you be more human and just see that you just have to, you're a human living this human experience, and everything will be okay at the end. And then I will recommend you just participate in any kind of book club. The MRX Pros has this amazing book club. We read all sorts of books, very interesting, but your local library will have books. I'm an avid reader. At any given point, I'm reading 4 or 5 books.
Yeah, that's good. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. I feel like we could keep going, but we need to end it at some point. So I really appreciate you coming on the show. This has been great. So thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity and for your wonderful questions.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this, please share it with someone that you know or that you don't know on socials, whatever you want to do. We really appreciate it. All right, we'll see you all in the next one.